Hey there, and welcome to Xenophiles, the world's greatest John Cena film review program. And we, Mike Andronico and myself, Henry T. Casey, are here to discuss the cinematic career of the Doctor of Thugonomics, the 16-time world champion, the best-selling author, the TV show host, and overall sentient meme machine himself, John Cena.
Yes,
Mike, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. I can't believe we are finally here. The hardcore fans may realize that this is not the first attempt at doing this podcast. We tried doing this last year, got a few episodes in, but like all things that happened in 2020, Cinephiles deserved a do-over, a fresh take. We could take our masks off now. It's cool.
Much like the Suicide Squad, we needed a reboot, and
Yes.
that's a spoiler alert. We're building the trajectory of this show, which will live as a Twitch stream live first, and then get aired, if you want to call it that, separately on YouTube. Which the channel is called Xenophiles. It's already up. You can subscribe now and like and share it with your friends and just um, if you're gonna try to get me to change and evolve as a human being, leave interesting comments because I always say never read the YouTube comments. I say it loud and proud, but if you can make me change as a human being, the real Cinephiles were the fans we made along the way, and I'm excited to find that out. Um,
Yes. So
but let's talk about what we're doing here today,
Yeah,
Mike.
so for those that are brand new to the channel, don't know us, or don't know why the heck we're doing a podcast about the filmography of John Cena. Yeah, long story short, Henry and I go way back, and kind of it started as a bit. We went to see Blockers in theaters, which was like a 2018 film. Had a great time. Then it kind of became a tradition slash bit slash obligation where we decided we're gonna see every John Cena movie as it comes out because it's always a good time. And then one day, Henry and I were sitting next to each other at work when we still work together, RIP. And Henry just uttered the phrase "Xenophiles," and we kind of just looked at each other and knew right away, like, all right, this is a podcast we have to do. We are going to watch and rank and review every single John Cena movie. So that's why we're here. Gave it a shot last year, but now armed with better knowledge, armed with the ability to stream, we decided to give it another shot. So yeah, Henry, let's do some quick intros to explain how the hell we got here. So tell the folks a bit about yourself.
Also, just want to put one caveat in there. We're talking about the cinematic and filmography of John Cena, but the thing is, we're not going through every single entry in the career. We're going through the featured roles. So if you're looking at his Wikipedia, we could have started with Ready to Rumble. He has an uncredited role in that movie as a gym patron. We're not going to go into Fred the movie, where he's Fred's dad. We're not going to do Trainwreck, where he's Steven, or Sisters, where he plays Pazuzu. Nor are we going to do The Wall, a war movie where he's barely in it. We're going to do the movies where John Cena has an actual meaty featured role in the movie because we don't want to be talking not about John Cena for too long. It would just get all very Poochie like. Where's John Cena?
Yeah,
Um,
no, we're
and
we're we're go we're go we're going with the heavy hitters.
yeah,
Um,
and so the Marine is what we're talking about today. But before we get to the Marine, let's just say that we came to this idea sort of haphazardly because I was the corrupting influence in Mike's life. Marie is the healing influence. You can see her if you look behind him. Um, I was really the person that sort of got Mike back into the terrible, sort of at times wholesome, but very much evil and very many of its corners world of professional wrestling. And over the years, that led to just John Cena movies. And then, because we saw Blockers, and Blockers was really good.
it
And
was
it was
very
just like
good.
Bumblebee. But today, we're talking about The Marine, the first feature movie of John Cena's, his first real big role. And I was looking at this. It was executive produced by Vince McMahon, something that the film is very proud of and shouts at you in big text at the start of the movie. And I was just going to check now because I meant to do this before we started, but time has a way
Oh,
of
can I
throwing
can I
bricks in your
just can I
path.
just chime in with
Yeah,
some quick factoids? So yeah,
yeah.
this was a 2006 film directed by John Benito. I don't know what else he's done. It sits at a 20% rating on Rotten Tomatoes for critics, 60% audience rating, which that makes sense. Because as you'll hear, there's some fun to be had in this movie, even though it's not a good film. Made about 7.1 million on its opening weekend. At a time, it was this is such a ridiculous stat. It was once WWE Studios' most successful film, beating out See No Evil starring Kane.
And Walking Tall and The Rundown, which both starred The Rock.
Yeah.
So John Cena outperformed The Rock at the box office, which I don't remember if that was folded into their feud at the time. But don't worry, folks. We're not going to talk much about wrestling. One of the ideas behind Xenophiles 2.0 is that we're going to make this as little wrestling involved as possible. Because
Yeah.
if you want wrestling, you can get wrestling everywhere. There's
Yeah.
wrestling every night, and it's just too much of it, and
And
it
John
should
and
be
John
made illegal.
and John Cena has transcended the world of wrestling. Still doing it. Has his biggest movies yet coming out this year with Fast 9 and Suicide Squad, which we will get to. All these
And a TV
episodes,
show,
yes,
Peacemaker, coming to HBO Max.
all these episodes are basically the ramp up to that. But all right, let's get into the Marine, Henry. How does this movie start out? Because it's a hell of an intro.
It's it's I called it in my notes. This is basically a problematic moments bingo card opening. First of all, the WWE Films logo, whatever graphic, feels like their own attempt to make a 20th Century Fox, because it has like shifting like light and like a logo, and then it fractures. It's all dramatic. But then you see John, well, he's not John Cena, but you see Mr. Cena in black and black stripes camo face paint, which we love you, John. But is this accurate to? If anyone can prove that it was accurate and not just some decision somebody made that doesn't look that great in retrospect, I'd be curious to know. And then he's barging in on terrorists, who are yet one of whom yells "Allahu Akbar," and it's basically just like, oh, everything's going wrong here. And then he stomps on a guy's skull on the ground, and it's just, oh, we're going full. He's trying to save his fellow Marines because he's a Marine, and that's the theme of the movie. But it
It's
goes into full recruitment mode. The
Yeah,
explosions, they
it's a
happen.
real it's a surprisingly brutal intro, and obviously, this is our second time watching this film, as it's going to be for a few of these. But yeah, it's a very violent intro. He's stabbing dudes in the chest. He pulls one guy up to him and is shooting him right in the stomach. I think he shoots a grenade at one guy. So yeah, as Henry said, it's like the typical, the action hero barges in, saves the hostages. Mind you, this is 2006, and as Henry said, it took place in Iraq, so take that context for what you will. Now they have to try to escape, and his fellow Marines are like, "How do we get around them?" And one of a million amazing quotable one-liners, John Cena goes, "We don't, we go through them." And then that's the end of this opening raid scene. And then we find ourselves over in Germany at one of their bases, and so John Triton, which is John Cena's character in this film, I love that he's still John.
We could just keep calling him John. That's the
Yeah,
most. It's the easiest way to do this podcast.
he's still
So
John,
what did
and
John do next?
he's still Cena in most of my notes. But it turns out he disobeyed orders making that move because he didn't wait for backup. He barged in, grabbed the dudes. So despite his heroic efforts, he is discharged from the Marines.
But he tells his Colonel, I'm a Marine, and it's just this moment of very whole. It's like, and then his Colonel says, one of the best. So at that point, he's given his yellow "You're fired" envelope, which is like the pink slip of the Marines.
Yes.
And in 4.5 minutes, he's gone from Marine to not a Marine. How is this movie called The Marine, you might ask? Well, it's like he can't quit being a Marine. And that's the through line of the dramatic action of the film. Because you might be able to tell, I took screenwriting class in college. Should have put that to use for my career. But we're going to go through that now.
You are now, Henry.
Yeah, because John comes home, and the other theme of most John Cena movies happens, because he meets up with his special lady friend, who I believe is his wife.
Yeah,
because he says married later on.
Kate Triton.
But
yeah,
she is horny as all hell.
As I would be if John Cena came home to me.
Yeah. Like, I mean, this movie didn't keep with John Cena lore. The apartment, the house didn't look especially clean or tidy, but like, it was very much like I was actually tracking the scenes here, because immediately he picks her up practically and he carries her into the bedroom, and they sort of disrobe a little bit. Jump cut to her sitting on the countertop and him looking into her eyes, and so it looks like they may have had some five knuckle shuffles happening.
Oh, the actual line. I quoted this movie so many times, took notes of quotes. This movie is incredibly quotable, not necessarily in a good way, but the lines will stick out to you. And yeah, they have this conversation where like he's already rushing to get back to work. She's like, "Don't you want to be happy?" Um, and then like, like she's telling him, "Slow down. I just want you to be happy." Then he grabs her, takes her to the bedroom, and she's like, "Where are we going?" "To make me happy."
Yep.
So
So
that tells you what you need to know about the writing in this film.
which I in my notes I'm like, is that this gonna be the third or the second time? Because the question I had while watching was, okay, so seemingly once in the bedroom, and then on the back in the kitchen on the countertop, she was just in her bra, and you couldn't, and he was shirtless. So
Yeah.
was that number two, or is that just post number one? But before he picks her up, and they say that, he says to her, "You married a Marine, Kate." And it's very much like, okay, his personality and his image is defined by his job.
Yeah.
As people who write online for a living, we sort of understand what it feels like to be defined by your career. But
There's no getting out. But
nope. Um,
so following the scene where they have their big reunion, where oh,
I just
what
forgot. I didn't mention this earlier.
what is that?
Because I want to inaugurate Xenophiles 2.0 with the proper beverage. This is
Mountain
the
Dew?
Mountain Dew that John Cena had a Super Bowl commercial for.
Ah,
Mountain
I was
Dew
wondering the connection.
Major Melon. Look at
I'm
that
and he does
militaristic watermelon on the.
and that makes sense because John Cena does have a major melon. He has a huge head and it's beautiful and chiseled. So anyway, cut to the next scene. We meet our main villain, Rome, played by Robert Patrick of Terminator fame. In my notes, both times I watched this film, I first noted him down as knockoff Ray Liotta because that's what he reminded me of. But he is a accomplished actor in his own right. So it's kind of the typical intro heist scene. You meet the bad guys. There's this
Before we
elaborate.
before we get there, I kept referring to him at first as Patrick Wilson. That's a different actor.
Much
But
very
he
different, but
before he goes into the because like there's this whole tracking shot of like the scene outside the bank, and he's talking in his car with his crony who's doing this like terrible Scarface impression,
oh god, yes.
and he rightfully mocks it, and that is the first of a couple of sort of what I call dime store versions of celebrities in this
Yes.
movie. Because we go inside the bank and you quickly realize there's a knockoff Carl Urban inside that bank. And it turns out Robert Patrick is working with knockoff Carl Urban.
Oh, are you talking about Bennett? Manu Bennett? The
I
sort
think
of
so.
yeah, spiky haired, sort of tan
Yeah,
skin. Yeah. Manu
yeah.
Bennett of Arrow fame. He was actually a superb Deathstroke in the TV show Arrow. But yeah, one of many who and he plays his character's name is Bennett, another character that just gets to use his name because they probably didn't put too much thought into this film. Um, but yeah, like Henry said, there's a lot of knockoff cronies. Uh, and yeah, things start off with what seems like a typical jewelry heist. You've got a lot of great one-liners from Robert Patrick. He's like, "I have some severe intimacy issues, and a gun. So do yourselves a favor, don't look up robbing the jewels." But then you find out some of the people there are actually in on it,
He takes
and
a hostage, a screaming woman, and then, oh, wait, she's in on it too.
mhm,
But he's like, you're right, he's being this joking Michael Rooker style villain, kind of. He's like really
yeah,
trying to ham it up for the camera.
yeah,
Um, and slowly, you realize he's not loyal to his own plans because the guy who's giving him the jewels that they're stealing says, "You gotta punch me, make it look real, make it look like it." And he says he calls him by his name. I think is what really tipped
mm,
this guy Rome off.
yeah, Rome,
And so Rome angrily, "Oh, I'll make it look real." Boom! Shoots him and kills him.
yeah.
And then the instrumental of White Zombies More Human Than Human hits. And you know that this movie is going full early 2000s.
And full early 2000s it goes because shortly after that, they try to escape, and we have a full-on shootout between Rome's crew and the cops. It is one of many scenes that are just so typical over the top 2000s. Eventually, Morgan, the best character in the entire film, shoots a rocket
Yep.
launcher at a cop car. It goes flying in the air. It's so exaggerated. The effects are terrible.
So we
Everything
had seen
since
Morgan earlier. Who is. Let's reveal the reveal about what Morgan was hiding in plain sight as.
what do you mean?
Morgan was just a guy on the street at like a hot dog or a coffee stand.
Oh, I didn't catch that actually.
Oh
Wow.
no,
That
no,
was
yeah, he hangs up something on a rack
okay.
or something. He's one of the. So the movie is like I said I was going to make this as non-wrestling as possible, but this movie is swerving you left and right, making you realize that everybody's a heel,
Yeah,
everybody's a bad guy
a
in this
lot of
movie,
heel
basically.
turn, except for John. He is the
And he's
purest
got a
man.
bazooka.
Yes.
Morgan's got a freaking bazooka.
So Morgan blows up a cop car. We meet Detective Van Buren, who's on the scene. We'll talk a lot more about him later. Kind of breaking down like, wow, how did these guys know that these diamonds were getting delivered? Plot starts to unfurl. Eventually, we cut to John, first day on the job at his new security gig. He's working security at some office complex. Him and his buddy Joe, played by Drew Powell, kind of classic comic relief. This guy's very content to be a security officer. He's like, oh, it's great, you stay here for 2 years, you become a manager. John's like, how long have you been working here? He says 9 years. Why are you not a manager? Fun stuff like that.
And then a bunch of guys who clearly look to have mafia,
Mm-hmm.
like they're like zoot suited. They
Mm-hmm.
are like, if you think about like early Cesaro from Chikara, they have the sort of like the big suits. They're like the shiny shirts, the ties, and they're all D bags. I
Yeah.
think we can say that on Twitch without getting in trouble. Um, but it's funny what makes them up. What makes Cena, what makes John Triton and Fake Kevin James angry, because they let these guys go upstairs, even though they disrespect the pen of the front desk.
Yeah, they didn't even
He
sign
doesn't,
in.
but he also like throws it down practically. And John Triton looks at him with disgust. You've abused the front desk. But his buddy gets a call,
Mm-hmm. And that call
and
is they're told there's a psycho ex-boyfriend issue on the 12th floor or something like that. So they go investigate. It's those same shady. It's that main shady mafioso looking dude yelling at a woman.
he looks like poor man's Ethan Embry. Ethan
Yes,
Embry, who we'll see later on in Xenophiles, by the way.
yeah,
Spoiler alert.
yep. And so John and Joe show up. They try to ask the guy to leave. That doesn't work. He's like, I'm not listening to a rent-a-cop. They eventually grab him.
And the guy is calling his girlfriend, who's working in this office, a whore twice. He yells
Yeah.
at her, and he's pissing her off. But it's only when he calls John Triton flat top that things have to get physical.
Yes.
And they remove him from the office. And we get into the elevator, and what do we learn is this guy's name?
Oh, I didn't catch his name.
He gets a call on his little flip phone, I think.
Mhm.
Little flip phone. You're on with the... Oh, no. You've got the Drake.
The
He calls himself
Drake. That's
the
right.
Drake.
The Drake. He's the
He
worst
doesn't
Drake in
get
this
fired
movie.
yet.
Yeah. That's an inside joke for the wrestling fans. We'll keep those at a minimum. But yes,
Yeah.
it is the
But
Drake.
yeah, you got the Drake is the most like cornball, one of the most cornball lines in this 5-minute stretch of the movie. But it's when they get downstairs from the lobby, because he can't be on the phone because you got the Drake, but I'm talking to these. Yeah, I'm in this elevator. But we get downstairs and they almost get into a fight, and John Triton's new coworker tries to be a peacemaker, tries to make everything cool. But then these bad guys make the mistake of saying that they're boyfriends. And if you imply homosexuality in 2006, you're going to get your ass kicked.
Yeah,
Like-
this is one of the one of about 10,000 just incredibly dated, just interactions, things that you would not see today. Because God forbid you call it, God forbid they say the B word, and that's what gets Joe fired up, and then they both agree to start fighting. So eventually, that happens. They scrap. We eventually cut to John and Joe having some drinks to unwind after the fiasco. They're probably drinking Miller Lights or something like that.
John has seemingly been fired, it sounds like, according to his coworker. Also, the Drake, after Windows break and everything goes to heck, the Drake says, you better get to work on time tomorrow, because when you do, you're fired, because I'm going to buy and own this place after the law, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, they're talking, John, his coworker, and he says, being a Marine meant everything to me. And then later on he goes, I'm going to go home and see my wife. And what does his partner say to him?
Joe goes, yeah, she's hot. Which, again, it's just, the movie never lets up from this type of acting and dialogue and writing. It is cheesy one-liner after cheesy one-liner.
How does he know? How we never even,
Maybe, maybe in the time they met, he showed a picture or something like that. Who knows?
That seemed supposed to be his first day, though. So I guess he showed her to him, like, he had a flip phone photo. Because like I mean, back then we used to believe that was good photo quality. I
Yeah,
guess so.
maybe he just rightfully assumes that John Cena would have a hot wife.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's
um,
2006. That
yeah.
that makes sense. It checks out.
So then we cut to Rome with his main lady Angela. And they're talking about just the bank heist. She's a little concerned. Are they gonna get caught? That transitions to him kissing her very creepily. They start making out. Then Rome gets a call from the mysterious dealer that they're working with, the person they stole these diamonds for, that in exchange for cash, and they're so that back and forth is happening. You realize there's another bad guy in the mix that Rome is working with.
And Rome's boss is apparently very angry.
Yeah.
And then that's when I think we learned his name was Rome. But he says when he's on the phone with his boss, "I've gained control." But he
Yes.
says that when Angela is disrobing, and it's just like, yeah, okay, you have whatever you're playing out here, but he goes, "I've gained control because I have the diamonds. The diamonds are the power,
Yeah.
basically."
Yep.
Those aren't the words, but
That's basically it. And then so Joe drives John home. Joe's like, "Hey, about today, I won't tell anyone." It was a very wholesome moment. They get a fist bump. He's like, "Thanks, man. Good buddies already." Then the classic sitcom type stuff. John tells his wife was like, "How was work?" John's like, "Fine, nothing happened." And she's like, "Something happened." He's like, "Stuff." And then immediately the TV's on, and there's news footage of John throwing that dude out the window. Um, so and then that's when Kate kind of suggests, like, maybe we should just run away, go to the country, forget everything.
road trip time.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
we deserve a road trip. I mean, everybody wants a road trip right now, and back then in 2006, yeah, no, there's no reason not to go on a road trip. Um, and then we cut to a garage.
Oh God. So this is our real this is our another scene with my favorite character in the film, Morgan, one of Rome's cronies, and he's there to get a ride for their kind of for their next mission, for their delivery. And he's in a garage with this dude Frank. We start setting up some plot points. Frank offers him some rock candy. Morgan says, I hate rock candy. Keep that in mind. That's going to
Yeah,
be important."
keep that in mind. And also, we meet Morgan first when he's talking to the bodyguard at the door, who Morgan recognizes him as a former football player
Hmm.
who made it to the Super Bowl but didn't win in the Super Bowl. He started in the Super Bowl but didn't win. So Morgan is just like winding people up without realizing it.
Oh,
He's
he's
but he
he's
hates rock candy. He
yeah.
hates rock candy, and he's here to get a car, and he gets a minivan.
And he specifically says black men don't drive minivans, Frank. But
And that is the first of many. If anybody remember that old Simpsons episode where I think Homer's watching stand-up comedians, it's like white guys drive like this,
yeah.
black guys drive like. It's that whole gimmick basically is sort of sprinkled lightly, dusted like a fine bag of Cheetos with the cheese dust throughout the entire movie.
But fret not, because Morgan sees an opportunity to, instead of take the minivan, steal a Cadillac. So he does that, and he gets this beautiful Cadillac with a little Las Vegas sticker in the back. And that's that. And then we cut to here's things are going to heat up literally very soon because John and Kate are on the road. They're finally making their road trip, um, and they have to grab gas. And so they end up at a gas station. And as fate would have it, Rome and his crew are also at that same station getting snacks.
But before then, we have three words of dialogue that tell the whole story of the movie. Because Kate says to John, "Nice butt," and slaps him on the ass. And when he's walking into the gas station, which was some weird name of a gas station, I can't even remember. And then he just responds, "What?"
I literally have
Not
that.
like,
I have that in my notes in all
"Yep,
caps and bold.
yep,
Yep.
yep." And it's like Rome's there. We then we realize that Rome's filling up gas. Rome's knockoff Scarface is in the car next to Kate's car, the
Yes.
truck that John and Kate were driving, and knockoff Scarface checks Kate out. And then we know everything's going to go wrong because if there's a cop that shows up in your life, you know something's about to go wrong. Like it's just the biggest
So
red flag.
so the highway patrol shows up. They starts questioning Rome a little bit. He's asking him questions about the Cadillac, just making small talk. He's like, "Oh, Vegas sticker. My brother lives in Vegas. Blah blah blah." Morgan realizes what's going down, that there's a cop here and there's something that has to be done. So Morgan just pulls up behind that cop and kills him. Straight up bops him. Which, keep that in mind, because that comes into play in a bit
Yep.
later. And then from there it turns into an all-out shootout. We get the incredible shot, which you can actually see in the trailer below. At one point, when Rome is firing at the police, there's an incredible slow motion CGI shot of like the bullet casing spinning in midair, and it's hilarious. Uh, Bennett knocks John out with the fire extinguisher. Oh, so I should back up. In the chaos, they see Kate and they decide to kidnap her, take the truck. Um, and John can't save her because he just got knocked out with a fire extinguisher by Bennett. So he's all hazy-eyed. He sees his wife getting taken away, and Morgan starts shooting up the gas station to start a fire. Again, I should have done an explosions counter because there are about 30. There are like 20 in the trailer you're seeing below, but anyway, the point is they blow up the gas station. They think John is dead because you see a massive explosion. You see John
How
getting
did he survive that one? The first explosion knocks him back,
yeah. Yeah, you see
and then
John
he
getting
just
knocked back. I don't know how
yeah.
he survived beyond that, but
Well, he just walks through the fire. Like it's
yeah.
just I rewound it like 3 times because it was sort of like not giving much time to like a scene where like he should be dead. What
Right.
the hell? But no, he walks through the fire, and he gets in the cop car. He takes the highway patrolman out of the cop car because that guy's knocked out.
Yeah.
He gets in the car. He gets on the little cop intercom thing, and he calls the hostage and the whole incident in, and he says, "She's my wife."
Yeah, he's like, they have a hostage. It's my wife, which I don't know how John Cena didn't win an Oscar for that delivery. Um, but yeah, so then we have a pretty fun chase scene. At one point, Kate tries to attack Angela when she's in the car in captivity, and they restrain her. And then eventually John catches up to them in the cop car, and they're like, "Oh, that ain't the cops." And then Morgan at one point says, "I hate cops and rock candy." Again, keep that in mind. This is pretty incredible because so now Morgan's trying to get John off their tail. He's firing away to machine gun. John is holding a police vest. He's driving with one hand, holding a police vest with the other, and using that to block the shots.
Because he has to. Because when everything went down with the highway patrolman car that he stole, that car windshield got shot up to smithereens. So in a masculine feat of strength, he pushes the car windshield out of the car. So he's driving without any protection when he's like chasing these guys who are going to shoot him down.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to do something to, because the glass isn't going to be there to ricochet bullets away. I mean, he doesn't have a mask to wear.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know what he's really going to do. So yeah, bulletproof vest. That's your Link had a shield in Zelda.
John has a
John
bulletproof
Cena
vest.
uses a bulletproof vest.
And it gets even worse because at one point, uh, they're driving through a construction site, and John literally ducks entirely into his seat as he drives under a crane, which destroys whatever was left of the top of the car. And then they see that he's still alive, and the most brilliant piece of writing in this film, like legitimately, they realize that somehow John's not dead. And I think Bennett says, "This guy's like the Terminator." And you just see a quick glance from Robert Patrick, who was the villain in Terminator 2, I believe, the T-1000 or whatever it is.
T-1000, yep.
Which was legitimately brilliant. Like, I love stuff like that.
There's another callback to that later in the movie, and also he also made callbacks to this in Wayne's World, I believe, where he was the cop that pulls Wayne over.
Oh, I did not catch that.
but-
That's great.
So I'll bring up the other gag later. But yeah, then the chase, the shootout. Eventually, John's car is spinning and on fire and in the air because this is basically SSS Tricky, but with flames and explosions. But we get at least 1 or 2 shots of John falling out of the car, not on fire, to make sure we know that he's not in trouble, really.
Yeah, it's another one of those glorious slow-mo scenes, like the car, yeah, flaming car, everything's blowing up, a million gunshots everywhere. So eventually, they think they've got John off their tail. They start kind of making their way through the swamp that they end up in, and there's a lot of infighting at this point between Rome's crew. There's a lot of tension, but Rome basically says, we can either stay here and kill each other, or we could go cash out, get our diamonds, get paid. At one point, Rome says, "Watch out for crocodiles," and Morgan has some great dialogue there.
And I think the guy whose name you knew and I didn't, who I called knockoff Scarface, or maybe knockoff Carl Urban, says, "Ain't no crocodiles in South Carolina."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Yep.
Then the real cops, Detective Van Buren, who basically looks like what would happen if Old Man Gil from The Simpsons had a little bit more backbone. He shows up at the scene of the explosion, the Menzo or whatever that gas
Hmm.
station's called, and he's investigating it, and he eventually runs across John Triton. And in
Yes.
that moment, you're pretty. I mean, I could instantly. I think the first time I saw this movie, I was pretty sure. Yeah, he looks too much like a dirty cop to not
Mhm.
be a bad guy. It's just like the guy is not acting. I think he's acting to let you think he's a bad guy.
Yeah, I wasn't suspicious yet, but he pulls his gun. He pulls his gun. He pulls his gun, realizes it's just John. John's like, they killed my wife. I've seen them kill 3 people. I don't want her to be the fourth. And then it's a lot of classic lines. Van Buren's like, I can't give you permission to pursue. John's like, I'm not asking for it. And then Van Buren eventually lets him go do it. He's like, you better hurry. Blah blah blah.
But
Um,
like, why would he be trying to stop this guy who could help if he was like in my head? I'm thinking, well, he wants to help protect his. If he's dirty, he might want to help them. So getting this guy to stop chasing them might be helpful for them.
right,
But
right.
then we get another. It's all about race conversation.
Oh God, yeah. There was so much there. Well, because at one point, there's this comes up a few times, but eventually is like, Morgan says something. He's like, "My problem is walking through this dirty ass swamp with the whole county looking for me because someone wanted to kill some cops." And the rest of the crew points out that Morgan is actually the only done most of the cop killing so far.
He pulled the bolt gun on the cop and shot him in the back. Like,
He also blew up a cop car with a rocket launcher earlier. So
yeah,
Um, and then there's like a weird, there's a moment of tension between Viscera, who's the bootleg Scarface, and Morgan. They both have guns on each other. Rome tells everyone to calm down, but then is like, for whatever reason, shoots Viscera,
yep.
because why not? Um,
The answers and the questions like why did you do that or whatever were not actually elucidating to what his motivation was for that. It was just to give you more reason to believe that Rome is an untrustworthy
yeah.
player.
And then, as the foreshadowing Henry touched on earlier, we see some alligators, and Morgan's like, I thought there were no crocodiles here. And Bennett's like, well, they're not. They're
That's
alligators.
it.
And then they start to eat Viscera. Um, And then, oh yeah, so this is where I think the movie really starts. I think Henry, we're on the same page here, but it starts to almost become surreal in how campy and ridiculous it is, particularly with Rome's performance.
And John Cena's as well because I think both of them. John gets much more mime-like and he. A lot of these scenes he has nobody to talk to, and he's just tracking them throughout the forest. Like it's like we're flashing back to him in the Marines.
Yeah,
Like, oh, he sees blood on a tree from when the alligators were killing Viserys. Like, and then Rome is just okay. The gimmick that I think you're talking about is okay. John Rome gets another call from his boss, and he finds out that the cops are onto him. They're chasing him, and then he gets another call because you can interrupt one call with another, and then he decides he's gonna. You don't hear the other person, but Rome decides he's gonna waste the time of a cold calling cable TV salesperson asking if that comes with the full package of channels, and
yeah, it was
it's
such a good bit. Like, yeah, he goes from threatening his boss to, yeah, I'll talk to the cable company real quick. I'll upgrade my subscription. Who cares?
silently
Uh,
John tracks Rome's crew. It's
yes.
like it's a slow burn of like oh hunting, hunting, hunting.
Yeah, so John's kind of hunting through the swamp. He has a giant, comically large knife. And then we see, oh yeah, more weirdness with the with Morgan and the crew. He's more just kind of awkward race stuff. Then another moment of just surreal camp is with Rome and Kate, where Angela's off in the background. Rome goes to Kate. He's like, "Oh, I thought maybe you and I can have a future." And he keeps making this weird gesture, like nodding back to Angela as if like he's gonna get rid of her. And then she just says like, "I hate you. You're disgusting." Uh, then back to John gets caught in a trap. One of those, I don't even know what you call them, but
Well, just first of all, like Angela kept being confused about why they kidnapped Kate. So I think they're playing on this whole Rome doesn't. Rome's like, oh, I might need her as a hostage.
yeah,
No, that's the thing that you don't need, dude. The
yes,
entire reason why you lose this movie is because you took. But it's clearly just he's horny and he wants to have his options open for people who he can repulsively try to trick into a relationship or something.
Yeah.
But John is now caught in a trap because two giant backwoods men who seem reject Wyatt family members show up, and
Yes.
they take him into, I believe, the set of See No Evil.
Yeah, so he ends up in this really creepy country house. They both think he's a cop. And they want to take
He
him
looks
out.
like a cop.
I mean,
Like, if you saw...
yeah, he's an ex-Marine. I mean, tomato tomato. But uh so eventually, to make a long story short, yeah, he's eventually tied up. Uh the way John Cena gets out is he headbutts one of the guys. He does this amazing flip to break the chair that he's in. So he's fighting with these own guys. I also made a note here asking if Cena did his own stunts here, because I can't imagine there being a body double that has his size. But it's something we'll look up. I'm sure there was a stunt person on set, but for the most part, I feel like John Cena is the stunt. He is the special effects. But anyway, he eventually breaks free of the country crew and Rome, and then yeah, probably the wildest, most surreal, most hilarious scene in the movie comes up because Rome and his crew kind of post up at this little boathouse. That's where they're gonna hide out while they figure out the whole diamond situation. Um, and yeah, so I'll start this off, Henry, and feel free to chime in. So Morgan, they ask Morgan to go to the basement to turn the generator on. Then he pulls the classic. He's like, "Why me?" He's like, "What if there's some guy with a hockey mask and a hatchet, or a group of country ass crackers craving some man love?" That's a direct quote from the film. Rome goes, "Oh, it'll be fun, like summer camp." Uh,
Morgan has a summer camp story.
it
He has
turned
a counselor named Johnny Whiplash. And Johnny Whiplash offered Morgan friendship and, you guessed it, rock candy. And then he offered Morgan something else that Morgan realizes he should not have accepted. And that's thankfully all they actually say about that, except that Rome gets a little bit weird, like, oh, like rolls his eyes in judgment. And
yeah,
it's just like,
but
it's also Russell Frost is the name of John Cena's stunt double in this movie.
okay,
I just want to divert from that, but yeah, no,
that's
the rock
important.
candy turned out to not. The rock candy was just a diversion, from what the
It, it
reveal was.
it represents
That
a traumatic time in Morgan's life.
yeah,
It was just such a
compensatory traumatic danger in Morgan's childhood. And meanwhile, John has a big ass knife and he's chasing them all down.
yes. So yeah, the rest of them, Morgan's activating the the generator. Uh, the rest of the
And
crew,
John's right outside the cabin. John's
yes.
right outside the cabin.
So just as Morgan's doing that, John bursts through the wall with the knife. They have a pretty short fight, and he just straight up stabs Morgan. So R.I.P. Morgan, you had a really tragic upbringing. I really feel for you, dude. Rest in peace to a real one. So the rest of the crew is just hanging out upstairs, drinking their Miller Lights. There's some rock and roll playing on the jukebox. Kate's talking a bunch of smack to Angela, saying you're just her little puppet. Rome asks Bennett to get the boat started, and that's where John versus Bennett goes down. We get some great wrestling here. John hits Bennett with a choke slam, which I feel like is not in John Cena's, wrestling moveset typically, maybe. I don't know. You know better than me, Henry.
I don't think so. I mean, there could have been a like he's no Nick Gage. He's not going to do a choke breaker even. So
Yeah.
like I don't think that that's going to happen. No, oddly enough, the wrestling scene in this movie sort of like it's sort of like they faded into the background almost for me. Like you're retaining much more of what happened with the fight scenes in this movie than I am, except for the finish of Rome. Technically, that's the thing I actually have a
it's a
note
big
on.
finish, yeah.
But yeah, knockoff Curl Urban is gone.
Yep.
And
I just want to add in that it looked just to add one more fight detail. I think John kills Bennett with what looks like a fatal leg drop. Like, it doesn't look like something that would kill a person, but he basically does a leg drop and Bennett's dead. So, sorry, proceed.
No. Of course, Detective Van Buren is here, and he and John are going to take out, because I think they talk a little bit before they go inside.
Yep.
And then when they get inside, immediately, Rome is laughing. Rome is just like bemused by all of what's going on in this moment. And that's because Rome knows Van Buren is here for his cut, not to stop Rome. And then a big fight ensues, and Rome gets away with Kate and Angela.
Yeah, so yeah, we have our classic twist. Obviously, Van Buren's dirty. A shootout ensues, and John basically used Van Buren as a shield. Shout out to Roman Reigns, Dean
Donna,
Ambrose,
Donna.
Seth Rollins. And yeah, so they're on, like Henry said, they're on the run. Him and Angela have Kate. Yet another scene of John jumping out of an exploding house. He's just invincible to those at this point. Um, and then at one point, as John is trying to catch up to Rome, a cop stops him, tries to arrest him. John pulls a reversal and puts the cop in handcuffs and takes his gun and takes his boat, his police boat. Then cut to Angela and Rome in the car. She's looking at one of the diamonds. She's like, "Oh, can I keep one of these?" And Rome's like, "We'll see. Yeah, we'll figure something out." She straight up starts straddling him while they're
Yep, she
driving.
mounts him while he's driving.
That's extremely
Like,
unsafe. That's all I want to say. No judgment, but that doesn't seem like a safe way to be on the
yeah,
road.
I mean, no kink shaming. Risk is risk.
No, no, no,
It's
no, no.
fun.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
like the thing is, it's like in the moment that she's doing that, I'm just thinking, okay, what is she stealing out of his pockets? Like this has to be for something. Spoiler alert: it's not for anything other than titillation.
It's just there. Yeah.
And then I don't have anything in my notes until the big truck.
I
Do you
mean,
have
yeah,
anything before the big truck?
that's basically it. John catches up to them. They all end up at Rita's marina, and yeah, after just like you said, Henry, after some chasing, John does this incredible leap onto their truck. He gets to the side of the truck, grabs Angela, tosses her out of I think the passenger side, so she's dead. She's like it was pretty brutal. Like she gets thrown into a window, and the diamonds go everywhere. Uh, Rome drives the truck into an exploding set of barrels. Another big explosion. John Cena is doing like the stiffest military run towards them, and I think Rome gets out of the truck, but the truck goes into the water with Kate inside, so she's in danger. She's basically like she's sinking right now.
Sorry, like John was like on the side of the truck before the truck in the north, and like to try to shake him off, they rammed the truck through a house. It's like they're fully trying. It's so Kate's underwater, and now it's up to John to stop Rome. Angela is where at this point? Like my notes.
Oh no, she's dead. So during that, I think right before, yeah, I think as shortly after John gets on the truck, he like pulls her out of the passenger seat and just tosses her, and
Okay.
she goes like flying through a window. It's pretty brutal actually. So it's
So
now it's
yeah,
yeah. No, go ahead.
and
But
Kate
the
tried to
final
choke
showdown.
Rome out.
Yeah,
No, no, no,
yeah.
no. But Kate tried to choke Rome out at one point. Like Kate was trying to do her best to show she has agency in action, and like, but Kate's stuck underwater, handcuffed inside the truck, and Rome gets a sledgehammer. And at that moment, when he picked up a sledgehammer from the floor of this barn or whatever, I heard, "It's time to play the game." And Lemmy was in my head, in my head, in my head, and but then it's the John and Rome brawl, and
Yes.
John triumphs over Rome, basically because the barn falls apart.
Do you remember the weapon that Rome used in this fight? He
Oh no,
eventually,
the next weapon, yes.
yeah.
But John has to once Rome seemingly is dispatched by the falling apart by the barn that's falling apart. John jumps into the water to free Kate, and he,
Yes.
with his brute strength, breaks the bar that her handcuffs are attached to, brings her out, does the mouth to mouth, trying to pump the water out of her chest, and then she wakes up, only for John to get.
He gets attacked from behind by a burning Rome. Get it? Rome is
With the,
burning.
but Rome is choking him with a giant steel chain.
Mm,
But Rome, when he shows up, has a very molten black face from
yeah.
all the material. I'm like, okay, another T-1000 riff from the
Very,
liquid metal face.
yep, very
So
Terminator. But John pulls another reversal, manages to get him away. Um, and
he sort of
that's
throws him with the chain in a way,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then seemingly with the flick of his wrist, snaps Rome's neck using the tension of the chain.
Yeah, no, John Cena kills a lot of dudes in this movie.
Yeah.
So that's it. So Rome is defeated, and yeah, so there's a little bit of tension because as like from the scene before, we don't know if Kate survived. Obviously, she coughs, she's alive, everything's good, and then we just get this great final line where when she wakes up, she's like, "We should have gone to the beach."
Well, I thought
Credits.
Cena says that.
One of them, maybe, yeah, it was
Okay,
one of
one of
them.
them, yeah.
But that's
Okay,
it.
so how?
And then slam to credits. No like after scene. No like, oh, look at them living happily ever after. And that is
Just
the
a very masculine rap song playing over the end credits because, yeah, we won. Yeah, we're
that
the best.
that's the Marine. So Henry, what did we think of this film?
Second time through, I just thought, like, okay, it was how he's never not a Marine.
Yeah.
Like, it's an interesting, like, once a Marine, always a Marine, and, like, I think I like it a little more the second time just because of how. I sort of enjoyed the camp a little bit more this time and how. I mean, not forgiving it for its problematicness,
Yeah.
um, but I'm still giving it, I believe, it. I think I'm going to adjust my scores over time, but to start, I sort of give this a gentleman C.
Yeah. This would
Like
be like
it's
a 2 out of 5 for me maybe.
yeah,
2
yeah,
point
and
two point five maybe.
that's I think where I was headed to because like we're not saying it's a 60 because that's what a literal C minus would be
Yeah.
if I remember my classes. But no, I think originally we did the knuckle shuffle scale for these movie ratings, and I think 2.5 is a good number to give this movie. And if you're listening or watching right now and you're curious how this movie will rank compared to the rest and what other movies we have coming up next, I'm going to adjust our schedule. We have a spreadsheet in our Twitter accounts, our pinned tweet, and I will be adding the ratings we have, the running ratings for this movie. So, Mike, you think we give it a 2.5 for now?
I think we stick to 2.5. Yeah, and obviously, yeah, a lot of these movies we're watching the second time, and I'm with you, Henry. I definitely, I mean, I feel the same. Where like it's not a good movie, but it's highly entertaining because it's so over the top, so cheesy. It's pretty short. It's about an hour and a half. I was constantly laughing at the one-liners, even ones that I don't think were meant to be funny.
Oh, no, yeah.
There's definitely some problematic stuff that doesn't hold up, but yeah, it's just unashamedly like a cheeseball action movie. So if that's what you want, you're gonna get it. And yeah, it's a solid 2.5. I didn't mind watching it twice, which is a big compliment to any of these type of movies. So
Like you could remember, like you could predict who was. We were pretty sure that Van Buren was the bad guy. Like you knew that. I found it funny how I had enough time to check using SoundHound what that song was. That it was the White Zombie song. I don't have that. When I called that out earlier, I don't have that title stuck in my head permanently. I cheated, but like stuff like the Drake and like everything in that. I think the opening third of
yeah,
this movie might be better. That's the one thing it sort of drags for me from about when you said when it gets kind of surreal from about I think everything from maybe like when they get the call when Rome gets the call that they're being onto him and he says I've got like after he's kidnapped Kate,
yeah,
like everything after Kate's kidnapped sort of is like
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's when it sort of slows for me. But like, I'm never not gonna enjoy a movie with surprise bazooka guy. Like, there's stuff that
yeah.
like they were aiming to be the KEWLEST action movie at the time.
Mm,
They were really going for
they went for it.
goofiness.
They
Yeah.
went for it 100%. Um, but yeah,
Remember, this is only 3 years after Bad Boys 2. If we're placing this in like history, like contextualizing it with like the action movies of its time, it doesn't have the Michael Bay polish behind it. Although it had the spinning cart flying in the air that was on fire. It
yeah.
had that. It
Some
had the bullet time, the moment.
yeah.
But
Some
it
would
was a
say some would
WWE.
say the Marine walked, so Michael Bay's filmography could run. So
But yeah, no, it was good for what it was. It was a WWE Studios film, and it was a corny, dumb action movie, problematic as hell. But hey, just ask Peacock. That's not an aberration in WWE's history.
but I'll tell you what, if you want to see more John Cena in somewhat corny action thrillers, you don't have to wait very long because tomorrow, I believe, we will be covering 12 rounds, which represents a big leap because we're going to 2009, several years later, slightly different type of film, a little more grounded, a little more serious. Um, but yeah, very
Also, this time he's not playing a character named John. This
yeah.
time he is Danny Fisher.
A
So
big,
we're gonna have to either just call him Cena from now on,
yeah.
or maybe remember the character's name is Danny. But like we don't have that crush, and neither does John. He's actually acting this time, and I think, I think we have an upgrade in our villain this time.
Oh, for 12 rounds, absolutely.
Yeah,
A huge, and you'll see a trend as Xenophiles goes on. The quality of actors definitely steps up as John Cena gets into more and more different types of films. But yeah, you guys can catch. Well, first to wrap up today, thank you all for being here. Obviously, we are Xenophiles. We are going to be streaming these episodes live every weekend, but we'll also be on all your favorite podcast streaming services as well as YouTube. So definitely just follow us, follow our links everywhere. You know where we're at. And yeah, tomorrow I believe at 1 p.m. Over here. Sorry, go ahead, Henry.
I believe our time we had set was 3.
Oh, that works too.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, 12 rounds. We'll be back in it. I'm watching these. I think both of us are watching when we can, watching them the morning of, so they're very fresh in our
Fresh, yeah.
in our inferiorly sized craniums. We don't have a noggin the size of John's, but we're doing our best to make these movies fresh in our heads. And so yeah, 3 p.m. Eastern for Sunday, May 23rd. We'll have 12 rounds, and also just to give you a little extra, because that's what we like to do here. We like to give you a little more than you asked for. I'm going to start the first edition of the extra bit, because we're sort of watching for franchises that we're not that familiar with. Mike over here is actually watching the Fast and Furious movies for the first time, and we're
I
hopefully
haven't
going to have
started yet.
No. I know that I'm just previewing that you'll be eventually talking about or trying to recap, because you're not gonna go into Fast 9 cold. Like,
No,
that would just be
no, I
lunacy.
have to do it legit.
There is a history of character development that you have
Yeah.
to follow through. But in the meantime, I am watching another cinematic oeuvre for the first time, and I can talk about two of those. I am watching the Saw movies for the first time, and I gotta say, my favorite moment. I'm just gonna do one moment when I talk about these.
Yep.
I think
Yeah,
my
one
favorite
minute.
moment from Saw 1. No, now you don't need 1 minute. I wouldn't lie to you. That line from the very end of the movie is, I think, the best misdirect ever, because it's the most, oh, he must be the bad guy moment, and he's not. And it's just a really great.
Yeah. Saw 1, a great film.
It's on HBO Max. All the Saw movies are on HBO Max. Check them out. I
Yeah.
don't know how many more of these Saw recaps I'll do, except to say Saw Spiral, or Spiral: Saw.
Spiral from the Book of Saw is the full title.
But it's not put that way on the poster.
I know, because
weird.
it's strange. Too long of a name.
Yeah. But if you want to see Chris Rock and Sam Jackson being Chris Rock and Sam Jackson in a Saw movie, this movie does that to a 100% completion rate.
100%.
It gets all the achievement trophies for Chris Rock hamming it up as Chris Rock.
Yep.
He's supposed to be Sam Jackson's character's son. So.
Yeah, it's a very good time. Just saw it last night. But yeah, before this conversation spirals a little too much, little transition there. Yes. So again, this has been Xenophiles. You could catch us pretty much everywhere. Here on Twitch, we have a YouTube channel, Xenophiles on YouTube. We'll be on all the big podcast services. Look out for this weekend's episodes, probably early next week. And yeah, I believe tomorrow we're going to be on one of our Twitch channels. So just follow our social medias. We'll put that out there.
Our Twitch channels are twitch.tv/Mike Strikes Back for Mike's channel, which is where we're on today. And either we'll be back there tomorrow, or we might be on twitch.tv/Henry T. Casey. Those are our two homes for where we stream online. Mike, is there anything else you'd like to talk about today?
I think that's it. Yeah, like you can follow us everywhere at all the icons below. Thank you guys so much for listening. We got a whole lot more for you. And yeah, a big Cena salute to everybody at home. All right.